There's a version of this video that gives you motivational quotes and tells you to believe in yourself. This isn't that version. What you're about to hear are 11 actual frameworks, some of them over 100 years old, that real people used to build their first million. Not theories, not vibes, rules with names, logic, and track records. Some of them will feel obvious once you hear them. That's the point. The frustrating thing about real wealth building is that it was never complicated. It just requires doing uncomfortable things consistently, and most people won't. So let's get into it. Rule 1. The 50-30-20 rule, Elizabeth Warren. Before Elizabeth Warren was a senator, she was a Harvard bankruptcy law professor who spent years studying why middle-class families went broke. What she found wasn't bad luck. It was bad structure. Too much money going to fixed costs. Not enough margin for anything else. One unexpected expense, and the whole thing collapsed. Her answer was a framework so simple, it almost seems too basic to work. 50% of your take-home pay goes to needs: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, the things that don't move. 30% goes to wants: dining out, subscriptions, entertainment, the stuff that makes life enjoyable. And 20% goes to savings and debt repayment. Non-negotiable. Off the top, before you decide anything else. Here's what makes this rule powerful. It's not a budget. It's a permission structure. You're not tracking every dollar. You're setting up 3 containers and agreeing in advance what percentage fills each one. The 20% that goes to savings isn't optional spending you got to later. It's the first obligation you honor. Most people get this backwards. They pay everything else and save whatever's left over. There's almost never anything left over. Warren's insight was that the order of operations matters as much as the amounts. Rule 2. Pay yourself first, David Bach. David Bach spent decades as a financial advisor watching smart, well-meaning people fail to build wealth. Not because they didn't earn enough, because they never changed the sequence. His core principle is this: the first check you write every single payday is to yourself. Before rent, before utilities, before food. The very first dollar that moves is into a savings or investment account in your name. And then, this is the part that actually makes it work, you make it automatic. You don't decide each month whether to transfer the money. You set up a system that moves it without your involvement, and you build your life around what's left. Bach's research showed that the people who built real wealth over time weren't usually making more money than their neighbors. They were just removing the decision point. When you have to actively choose to save, you find reasons not to. When the system does it for you, it happens every time, forever. He recommended starting with an hour's worth of your daily earnings. Just that. For most people, that's somewhere between 1% and 3% of income. A number so small it's almost unnoticeable until it compounds for 10 or 20 years and becomes something that shocks you. The latte factor, his famous concept, gets mocked a lot. People say cutting a $5 coffee won't make you rich. And they're right. But that misses the point entirely. The latte is a symbol. It stands for every small, automatic, unconsidered expense that bleeds out of your life every month without you realizing it. The practice of identifying those expenses and redirecting even a fraction of that money builds the financial awareness that eventually identifies real opportunities. Rule 3. The 10 to 25% reinvestment rule, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett made his first investment at 11 years old. 3 shares of a company called City Service, bought at $38 each. He sold at $40, made a small profit, and watched the price shoot to $200 shortly after. He never forgot that lesson. Patience and reinvestment, not quick exits. As a teenager, Buffett partnered with a friend and bought a pinball machine for a barbershop. With the profits, they bought another machine, then another. By the time they sold the business, they had 8 machines across multiple locations. Buffett used the proceeds to start the next business. The rule he developed, and has applied for over 70 years, is to set aside between 10 and 25% of any profit and immediately reinvest it into other productive assets. Not spend it, not save it in a way that just parks it. Reinvest it into something that will itself generate returns. The logic is almost mechanical. If your money is working, money is always moving toward you. If you spend profits, you reset the clock. If you reinvest them, compounding takes over. The gap between those two paths, measured over 20 years, is the difference between comfortable and genuinely wealthy. Buffett had accumulated $174,000 by age 26. In today's money, that's over 1.4 million. He got there not by making extraordinary moves, but by making ordinary moves in the right sequence over and over. Rule 4. The Rule of 72, the math behind every fortune. This one doesn't belong to a person. It belongs to math. And once you understand it, you cannot unhear it. Divide 72 by your annual interest rate or return on investment. The result is the number of years it takes your money to double. At 6%, 12 years to double. At 10%, 7.2 years. At 12%, 6 years exactly. At 24%, 3 years. This is why the vehicle you choose to hold your money matters enormously. The difference between 4% and 10% isn't 1.5 times the return. Over 30 years, it's the difference between tripling your money and multiplying it by 17. This is also why inflation is more dangerous than most people appreciate. At 3% inflation, the purchasing power of cash held in a checking account halves in 24 years. You don't have to lose money in a crash to get poorer. You can do it by standing still. The Rule of 72 doesn't tell you where to invest. It tells you what the stakes are and why every percentage point of return matters far more than it feels like it does in the short term. Rule 5. The first 100,000. Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger did not sugarcoat things. Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway, the man who helped turn a struggling textile company into one of the most valuable enterprises ever built, had a particular way of saying difficult truths in the most direct terms possible. On the subject of building wealth from nothing, he was characteristically blunt. The first $100,000, he said, is brutal, genuinely painful. You are climbing uphill with no wind at your back, no passive income, no compounding returns, no momentum. Just discipline and sacrifice. He told people, I don't care what you have to do to get there. Walk instead of drive. Eat only what you can buy with a coupon. Whatever it takes. Get to $100,000. Because after that, the equation changes. Here is what Munger understood that most people don't. The first 100,000 is hard not primarily because of the math. It's hard because of the psychology. Before you have meaningful savings, you have no proof it's working. You're saving with no visible result. That's discouraging. Most people quit somewhere in that gap. But at 100,000, compounding becomes visible. A 10% return is $10,000. Enough to feel real, enough to motivate, enough to fundamentally change how you think about your money. The first milestone isn't a million. It's 100,000. Get there by any means necessary, and the rest of the journey changes character completely. Rule 6. The 24-hour rule. Jay Leno. Jay Leno is known for a lot of things. What fewer people know is that he spent most of his career banking every dollar he made from his Tonight Show salary and living entirely off his stand-up income. For decades, he ran 2 separate income streams and treated one as untouchable. But the rule that fits here is simpler. For any significant purchase, anything above a few $100s, he committed to waiting 24 hours before buying. Not to do research, not to comparison shop, just to wait. To let the initial emotional impulse decay. To give the rational brain a chance to evaluate what the emotional brain had already decided. The psychology here is well established. Most spending decisions above basic necessities are made emotionally and justified rationally afterward. You don't decide you want something and then feel an urge to buy it. You feel the urge, and then your brain constructs a justification. The 24-hour pause disrupts that sequence. In 24 hours, a significant percentage of large impulse purchases never happen. Not because you talked yourself out of it with logic, because the emotional charge simply dissipated. The thing you were convinced you needed at noon yesterday seems much less urgent the next morning. Applied consistently over years, this one habit recovers an amount of money that surprises people when they calculate it. Rule 7. Debt is the enemy. Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey went bankrupt at 26. He had a Jaguar in the driveway and a real estate empire that looked impressive from the outside and was entirely held together by debt. When the banks called in his loans, he had 90 days to repay millions he didn't have. The sheriff was literally scheduled to repossess the furniture from his daughter's nursery the day he filed for bankruptcy. He spent the next decade learning everything he could about how money actually worked. Not how it looked, but how it worked. And he came back with a system that he has now used to help millions of people. The core of it is brutal in its simplicity. Debt is the enemy of wealth. Not a tool, not leverage. The enemy. The interest payments you make every month are transfers of wealth from your future to someone else's present. Credit card debt at 20% interest is a tax on your inability to delay gratification. His baby steps process starts with a $1,000 emergency fund, enough to handle most surprises without going further into debt. Then every available dollar goes to the smallest debt first. Pay it off. Roll that payment to the next one. Snowball your way out. Then rebuild the emergency fund to 3 to 6 months of expenses. Then invest 15% of income. Then pay off the house. Critics point out that his approach isn't always mathematically optimal. They're right. Paying off lowest balance debts first rather than highest interest debts costs more in interest over time. But Ramsey understood something the critics miss. This isn't a math problem for most people. It's a psychology problem. Paying off a small debt completely and removing it from your life is a win. Wins create momentum. Momentum keeps people in the game. People who quit a mathematically perfect strategy accomplish nothing. People who finish a psychologically sustainable one build real wealth. Rule 8. The 10x Rule, Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone's argument is uncomfortable and worth taking seriously. He says most people fail not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit. They set a goal that's modest enough to feel safe and achievable enough to require no real transformation, and they reach it, and discover it wasn't nearly enough. His fix is to multiply every goal by 10. If you think you can earn $50,000, set a goal of $500,000. If you think you can make 20 calls today, commit to 200. The reason this works is not magical thinking. It's that a 10 times target forces you to abandon the incremental strategies that fit a modest goal. You cannot reach 10 times by doing the same things slightly harder. You have to think differently, operate differently, and build different systems. The 10 times goal is a forcing function for genuine transformation. The objection people raise is that it's unrealistic. Cardone's response: realistic goals are designed by your current circumstances. If your circumstances are limited, your realistic goals will be limited by definition. The goal isn't just to plan for 10 times. It's to use that target to discover strategies and capabilities you would never have found by planning for 1 times. Rule 9. The latte factor, David Bach, again. We touched on this in the Pay Yourself First section, but it deserves its own treatment because it's more sophisticated than it looks. The latte factor is not about coffee. It's about the relationship between small automatic decisions and large financial outcomes over time. A $5 coffee every workday for a year is $1,200. Invested at 8% for 40 years, it becomes around $340,000. That math is real, but the bigger point is behavioral. Every person has a latte factor, a category of habitual, unconsidered spending that happens without active decision-making. Lunches, subscriptions, daily convenience purchases, upgrade fees. None of them feel significant in the moment. None of them register as real choices. They just happen. The latte factor exercise asks you to write down every dollar you spend for a full day. Not to judge the spending, just to make it visible. Most people, when they do this for the first time, find 3 to 5 expenses they had completely forgotten they were making. The act of seeing them, of converting automatic unconscious behavior into a deliberate conscious choice, permanently changes the relationship with those expenses. Some you'll keep, some you'll eliminate. The value isn't the savings from any specific item. It's the practice of treating every dollar as something you decided to spend rather than something that just happened to you. Rule 10. Don't rock the boat. Grant Sabatier's counter rule. Grant Sabatier retired at 30 at a net worth of $1.25 million. He started from $1,200 in a bank account at 24. His path required breaking every piece of conventional wisdom he'd been taught about money. Work your way up slowly. Don't switch jobs too often. Loyalty is rewarded. Stability is safe. Build incrementally. He found that these rules were designed for a different era and a different economy. In the current environment, the people who built wealth fastest were the ones willing to make asymmetric bets. Large risks with limited downside and meaningful upside, particularly while they were young enough to recover from failure. Not reckless bets, calculated ones. The distinction matters enormously. Reckless risk ignores downside. Calculated risk quantifies it, accepts it, and proceeds when the asymmetry justifies it. Starting a business, pursuing a promotion aggressively, relocating for opportunity, learning a high-value skill. These all carry risk. They also carry upside that a stable, incremental approach cannot replicate. Sabatier's point is that the cost of playing it too safe is invisible. You don't see the wealth you failed to build the way you'd see a loss. But over a decade, the difference between someone who took calculated risks and someone who didn't is often more dramatic than any single good investment decision. Rule 11. Follow your passion, Richard Branson's real lesson. This rule gets the most eye rolls. And it deserves some of them, because the way it's usually stated is genuinely bad advice. Follow your passion, without context, has sent a lot of people into low-margin businesses they love, but that cannot generate meaningful wealth. But that's not actually what Branson did, and it's not what he means. He didn't start Virgin Records because he loved music and thought love was enough. He started it because he saw a market gap. Young people who wanted music at accessible prices in an accessible environment. And he happened to also love music. The passion was real, but the business logic was also real. One without the other would have failed. His actual lesson is about the relationship between authentic engagement and sustainable execution. People who are genuinely interested in what they're building, who would do it even if the returns were smaller, have an energy advantage over people who are executing a financial plan with no emotional connection. They work longer, think harder, adapt better, and persist through setbacks that stop purely mercenary competitors. The money follows not because passion is a magic force. It follows because passion sustains the behavior that produces excellence, and excellence in a real market problem produces real returns. The actual advice is, find the overlap between what genuinely interests you, what you're capable of being excellent at, and what the market will pay for. That intersection, not passion alone, is where durable wealth gets built. So that's 11 rules. None of them require genius. None require exceptional luck. All of them require patience, consistency, and the willingness to do things most people aren't willing to do for long enough to matter. The uncomfortable truth is that the gap between people who build wealth and people who don't is rarely intelligence or opportunity. It's almost always execution over time. Pick the 1 or 2 rules from this list that apply most directly to where you are right now. Not all 11. Just the ones that address your actual current constraint, whether that's spending control, savings rate, debt, or risk tolerance. Work those until they're habits. Then add the next one. That's the system. Not glamorous, but it actually works. This is Potentia. Subscribe if you want more of this. And drop a comment. Which of these 11 do you think is the most underrated? I'm genuinely curious.